Okay, welcome everybody to the TCBC Bike University program. It's for January 25th. Today, we're real happy to have Mindy, Ahler, and Paul Thompson, the co-directors of the Cool Planet, to talk with us. And the title today is Simple Steps to a Cooler Climate, Taking Action from Your Bike Seat. We're going to keep, if everybody could mute themselves, notice, and also start your video, Bob, Doug, your video and your to keep it on mute. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat room, while the program is going. Paul and I are both going to monitor that. So if there's something that would be appropriate to interrupt, Paul will take that. Otherwise, I'll wait till the end. We'll also have an open Q&A at the end too, so feel free to do that. I just wanted to let you know that our next session will be on March 3rd. That's going to be with Doug Nelson. He's going to do some history of the club. It's called Back to the Past, TCB History Since the 1980s. We're also working on a program for the end of March or April on equity in bicycling. And then the Hotman Law Office Biking 101 class will be in May. We're still working on the date. There's 2 dates that we're working with them on that. As a introduction, Mindy serves as the regional coordinator for the Citizens Climate Lobby, which I'm sure she'll talk about, and works across 5 states as they work on national policy to address climate change. And Mindy and Paul completed a 4,000-mile, what they call low carbon crossings, cross-country bike journey. That's in the notes on today's session, so you can go to that link if you'd like to. Paul is a ex-Peace Corps volunteer in Malaysia, 1971 to 1973, where he taught biology, health science, and learned about being a world citizen. He's a retired elementary school teacher and is a full-time volunteer for Citizens Climate Lobby. He also serves, we got to know each other through the Birch Leggings Club, which is a club for those that have completed 20 or more American Birkebinder races. And he's done a lot with climate change. Paul also is serving as the president, newly elected president of the Birch Leggings Club, but also has worked with the Birkebinder Foundation on Berkey Green. And Paul, I hope you talk about that a little bit. This is going to be an open conversation. I'll turn it over to them. This is going to be recorded. I will get this up on the YouTube channel, the TCBC YouTube channel, hopefully by tomorrow. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mindy and Paul.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ed.
That's great. And Bob, Linda, and Jean, if you're comfortable turning on your camera, we'd love to see everyone, because if you fall asleep, then we'll give you a wake-up call. Who's going to fall asleep, though? This is going to be very exciting. Everywhere we go now, people are very aware of climate change. It's a big issue. It's not going to go away, and we have to do something about it. I love what Berkey Green does at the end of telling people, here's what the Berkey is going to do. It says the biggest risk in climate change is thinking that someone else is going to do it. It was an explorer named Robert Shaw. I checked out his website. He's invited me to go to Antarctica this year. So the guy's a real deal.
You're not taking him up on it, though.
I don't know. I would love to go. But, talk about real deals. You guys are bikers. You are doing the work that needs to be done, to get people healthy, fit, and taking active citizenship really goes along with being fit and healthy. And knowing Ed for all these years, I just want to really thank him for being an instigator, for bringing people together for education. The Green Miles program is awesome. I've shared it with other people. And, we were saying, oh, there are all these people, they take their bike, they put it on the car, they drive, they do their bike ride, and then they take their bike back in their car. Why not drive to the location
Bike.
and get credit for it? It's a no-brainer idea, but how many people do it? So Ed, thank you, for leading the way. What we're going to cover tonight, just an agenda review. We're going to ask you a simple question in a moment to kind of gear the interest and the concern that you have about climate change. And then we're going to tell you our stories. Mindy's got a fascinating biking story. I've got one less so. And then we're going to go through a few slides talking about kind of a little bit about climate change, but I'm sure that everyone here is here because climate change is real, it's happening now, and that we can do something, about mitigating and adapting, to building a better climate. And then after that, we'll have an open discussion. And hopefully the intended result is that you will leave inspired by yourself to be able to take those actions that you can share with your family, with your friends, and join the growing movement of people who are off the sidelines and into action. And I can't imagine bikers are any different than skiers. We have a lot at risk, and we have a lot to do. So everybody on board with that? Give me a little signal. You're good? We're ready to go? Thanks. Excellent. I'm a second grade teacher, so I always look for a response with kids looking at me, and now I'm looking at you. So on a scale of 1 to 4, the question is, what brought you here tonight? And on a scale of 1 to 5, what is your concern about climate? 1 would be no big deal, things will work out. 5 is we're on fire and we need to take action, and to do that in 15 seconds. So I'm going to model that behavior. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm a 5+, and I'm here tonight to find out how I can motivate all of you. So Johnny, would you go first? And Johnny, I saw someone else there, but you'll have to unmute yourself now.
Yes, we're both 5s. So, and I've been a bike commuter since 1988, and retired in 2019. So I don't commute anymore, but I still bike every day.
I was also a bike commuter for 30 some years.
Good. And what is your name?
Donna.
Donna, thanks for joining us. Great. Pat.
Well, I would say probably 4 to 5, somewhere in between. I'm not real familiar, or haven't been following a lot of the, what's been out there. Haven't been paying a whole lot of attention, and I think I need to. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much. Dick?
There we go. Well, I'd say I'd probably a 5, because that certainly can see the evidence of climate change out there. I'm both a skier and a cyclist, so I've really seen the changes over the years in ski conditions, and I have a fat bike too, so that also plays into my concerns about the winter season, and then just the effects of severe weather events around the world. That's becoming more and more damaging, and more people are being killed and injured by it.
Yes, thank you. Not demonstrating the 15-second model, but that was still very good. And
there's the wide 15-second model.
That's all right.
Yes.
You saved us time later.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ann.
I'll try to make up for you, Dick.
No, I don't know where I'm at. That's why I'm here to listen.
Mm.
I would love to be politically correct and say I'm a 5, but I can honestly say I'm not because I'm uneducated on the topic. So that's why I'm here. And
Yeah.
also a retired elementary speech pathologist, but I just got offered a job today and they're out there. If you want to work again, just say no, right, Linda? So I don't know where I'm at. So I'm here to listen, and I know I should be higher than I am with my concern.
Yeah, well, there are no shoulds, they're
Exactly.
just welcome. And it's really important to recognize that everyone is in a different place. Because when I'm out in the world, most people don't have a clue about what's going on and what to do. Doug, go ahead, please.
Hello. Well, statistics wise, I keep track of these things. You know, the last 10 months in a row in the Twin Cities, every month has been warmer than normal. And we really don't want that in the summers. The average summer is already warm enough. However, this month is going to break that streak.
So you're a 5. Yeah. And what would you like to get from being here tonight?
News. I'm the newsletter editor, so that's one thing.
Beautiful. Thank you. John? Benda, if there are 2 Johns here, no?
John and Johnny. I'm John Benda. I'm a 5. If we don't act now, it's going to be too late, and it might be anyway. A couple days ago, I volunteered to speak up at the Twin Metals when they were taking, letting people speak and tell their reason why they thought the Twin Metals mine up by the Boundary Waters was okay or not. I volunteered to speak. Thankfully, my number was way down the list because the people ahead of me were way more eloquent than I could ever be. Yeah, I'm a 5, and I do a lot of biking. I have some green miles. I'm right there in 3rd place. And but I don't ride my bike that much for errands and stuff like that, and I would like to get better at that.
Great. We'll be talking about that. Excellent. Jean, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm definitely a 5. I think just by you having this, there's always more that we can become more aware of to be more green. So I just appreciate you doing this. And yeah, like I say, we can always do more. George, my husband, is here too. Do you have anything you want to say?
So I'm pretty much a 5. I'm not in a position where I can ride my bike to work really, because it's too far and too cold right now. But we have a hybrid car, so I do try to drive that as much as possible and avoid the use of our larger and more polluting vehicle.
Yeah, I never asked.
But you know, I mean, I've done it all around our house. You know, LED lights and dimmer switches, and we've moved into a very insulated house, so I think we're using less gas than we did for a smaller footprint house, but with worse insulation.
Thank you. All right, Bob, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to try to go really fast since there's going to be some background noise. I was kind of hoping this was going to be more of a live podcast tonight, as I'm writing performance reviews for my staff at work. So in any case, I would rate myself as a 4. As somebody who works in technology, I do believe that necessity is the mother of invention. And I hope, you know, I have this cautious optimism, but I hope that we'll be able to find solutions. So maybe I won't, I'm probably of a 5 from the science is undeniable of what's happening. I'm just hoping that there'll be action. I'm here tonight because I just love to get more, hear from more people who are, you know, active on the front lines and hear their stories and their information and continually learning. So I will mute myself again to get rid of that background noise, but I do appreciate you guys and everything that you're sharing, which is great.
Thank you. Great to hear from you. And it sounds like you're in a place that is action filled. Linda, please. You're muted.
Okay, I am pretty ignorant on this subject. I've read a little bit, but I would like to know more. So I'm really trying to just educate myself some more about it. Concerned about a lot of the world climate changes happening all over. Anyway, and I'm a biker and a skier. So, and I definitely see the impact on skiing downhill, not so much downhill because they make it, but you don't get as much natural snow anymore.
Yes.
And the cross country is real difficult. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. I'm
Thank
eating my ice cream too, sorry.
But Mike, please.
I would say a 4.
Okay.
Hi,
Yep.
I'm a longtime biker. I used to commute to work downtown, 7 miles each way. I enjoyed that. Now I'm retired and looking to be more active in my retirement. So putting on a lot of, I'm not catching up to Johnny yet, but maybe. But yeah, and interested in the subject. I can tell there's ever since Al Gore's movie. That there's an issue out there and it's to be taken seriously. So here to learn more about it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Shelby.
Hi, no video for me at the moment. You could put me at a 5. I run and bike year round, and I've been commuting to work for almost 30 years now by bike. And I also ski, and I ski on artificial snow way more often than I'd like to. And I have a grocery bike with baskets that I use to run errands, and I also walk to do a lot of my errands, and I'm here to learn more.
Great. Thank you. Just in the word, one thing that I've been noticing, I listen to NPR every morning, and Kathy Wurzer now does a biking commute report, and she's got a biker who tells her where the ruts are, what the ice chunk conditions are, and that would not have happened 5 years ago, maybe not even 2 years ago. So, and Kathy Wurzer hates winter. So I really think it's a nod out to the importance of biking and how it is possible. And those of you who have been to Copenhagen and Amsterdam, you know exactly, what a bike city looks like. So I'm going to let Mindy take over now and give you a little story about her, where she's coming from, and then I'll do the same and we'll have our presentation.
Yeah, so we will have a few slides and pictures to show you as we move along here, but it was really nice to see all your faces and to hear that check-in. You've actually covered a lot of the things we were going to talk about, so it will shorten some of the things that we have to say tonight. But you're welcome no matter where you are on your climate scale. I've always had a bike, from childhood when I learned to ride and into my young adulthood, I always had a bike. But it wasn't until 2004, in protest of the Iraq War, there were people suggesting a gas boycott. And that's the first time I became a bike commuter. And I had just a 5-mile commute to work. So I started biking. But of course, the boycott was going to start in February. So I had to test out if I could really make it. So that meant I actually started commuting in January of 2004. But eventually I so enjoyed biking to get everywhere that it wasn't long after that. I think it was that following summer that I sold my car, and I've been in a 1-car household ever since then. Not totally car free, but definitely have used the bike as my primary transport. It's easier now that I work from home, and I have to say that I haven't been biking as much since I work from home, but still, and I'm a little wimpier than I used to be in the winter. So that was how I became a commute biker and really found the functionality of a bike that I loved. And then a year or two after that, someone invited me to do the Red Ribbon Ride, which is a fundraiser for AIDS and AIDS care organizations. And at that time, it's changed a little bit over the years. At that time, it was 300 miles over 4 days through southern Minnesota. And that's when I fell in love with long distance biking and the idea of wanting to do more bike trips. And the challenge for me then became to do self-contained bike trips. And I did a number of bike trips, some with just one friend and others with more of a group. And it set my sights of, by the time I turned 50, I wanted to be able to bike across the country. But in all those bike rides, so starting with the Red Ribbon Ride, I always did my long distance trips for some cause. I either used it as a fundraiser for an organization I cared about, or sometimes it was an organized ride that already had a theme. So when I decided I wanted to bike across the country, I didn't yet know why. And it was a few years before I had turned 50 when I first set my sights on that. But I was kind of looking for a reason to do a bike ride across the country.
And Mindy came to me when she was going to do her thing and said, Paul, you want to bike across the country? And I said, no, honey, I think this is going to be your thing. But I did join her across Iowa and from Pittsburgh to DC. And after that, I was like, I could have done that. So I grew up in South Minneapolis and was totally on a bike all my life. I would bike, to baseball practice, and I would bike around just bike for fun. I look at the slides now from the old days, and I see my red bike that all of my brothers learned to ride on, and so did I. I could barely get on it. And it brought back so many memories of family, and everyone biked. We biked all the time. But it wasn't until 10, 15 years ago when I went to Copenhagen for the climate conference, the conference that was just held in Glasgow. I went to the one in 2009, and there's a picture in Copenhagen. And I was stunned by seeing so many bikes by so many people, and everyone rode the train, got on a bike. That was just how they did it. The other picture is a bike that this gentleman with his daughter, it was taken in the Dunn Brothers parking lot in Linden Hills, and he called it his Copenhagen SUV. He said the front load can hold up to 600 pounds, 3 kids, shoulder straps there. And I've seen more and more young families with kids, transporting their families using bikes like this. So it was just, that's my vision now. My vision is to bring the bike back into useful functionality in our country. It'll take a long time, but it's worth going for. You might notice what Mindy and I are wearing. Well, you can't see them now because we got the screen up, but they're the 4 of us. The gentleman next to me is Tom McSteen, a friend through climate work. Tom met Jerry, who's the gentleman to the left, when they were doing a climate reality training that Al Gore started about 10 years ago. And they both realized that they loved biking. And Jerry came up with the term low carbon crossings and created a program that Mindy and I have taken on through Cool Planet, where we bike to places, we carry all of our gear, and then we have climate conversations in the places where we stay, either with people or at hostels, YMCAs, churches, universities. And we've done 3 of these trips. The picture on the right above is we're waving goodbye to a power plant, a coal-fired power plant. And that's the image on the back of our jerseys, with bikes headed towards renewable energy. And the bottom picture is our send-off with Frank Hornstein and Jamie Long, 2 legislators that came down to say goodbye. And we had a whole horde of people, most of them biked with us, for the first 10 miles. And then we went down to Winona and to Rochester and toured all over southern Minnesota. And it was just a thrill to do that. And we've done 3 of them now, plus the big one where Mindy went cross country.
So that finally gave me my reason for doing a cross-country ride. So it was also a low carbon crossing in 2016. I found one bike partner that did it with me. And then, as Paul said, he joined us for about 500 miles of it. We started in Seaside, Oregon, and ended in Washington, DC. And we had tons of volunteers that helped us out, so that we were doing community conversations about climate change all along the way. There's kind of the beginning of our ride and the end of our ride, and one spot in between. We ended in DC when there was a Citizens Climate Lobby conference. So it was November when we ended. And it was just after so through the entire election season when President Trump won the election. So we were through the whole campaign season is when we were biking. So we talked to lots of people that were on both had varying opinions about climate change, some of whom even gave us a place to stay. But that was a very interesting time, and it's a whole story in itself, but just gives you a brief preview. And a big part of it was doing presentations, but also generating media. We had lots of newspaper articles. A lot of them were small town newspaper articles. We were on the news in many locations. And then the lower right is even an example of at convenience stores, Paul and I would just find people, and pretty soon we're talking to someone else about climate change. So having the jerseys kind of helped open conversations with people along the way as well.
And it was really interesting because we would meet a lot of people who had never been asked, what do you think about climate change? And they would say, I'm really concerned, but no one else is. And then we would say, wait, see that person sitting over at the other booth? They're also concerned. So it really points to the fact that if you don't talk about this and give people an opportunity to express themselves, the biggest thing that we can do is to talk about climate change, because that will lead to deeper engagement and also a lot of aha moments like, oh, tell me what you do. How can you be helpful in this mission?
So that brings us to our topic of the evening. And I know a couple of you said you wanted to learn more about climate change, and I will probably disappoint you that we're actually going to talk very little about climate change and more about things that can be done. Because there is a scientific consensus that 97% of climate scientists, say that global warming is real. It's caused by our use of burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas. And that it is causing an increasing number of extreme weather events, as I know someone mentioned in the introduction. And that's costing us a lot of money. It's also creating a lot of suffering by those who are involved in those extreme weather events, but it's also increasing in the number of events that are happening, and at strange times of the year.
They just came out with a report of the number of billion-dollar events just in this country. And last year, I think the number was like over 20. So when you think about dollars and cents, talk to an insurance agent and find out, what about flood insurance in Florida or fire insurance in Boulder, Colorado? 1 out of 3 Americans now knows someone that's been directly impacted by extreme weather brought on by climate change. And even in Minnesota last summer was a wake-up call with the drought and the air quality, to say nothing of the Lyme's disease and the ticks and the things that are spreading quickly.
So when we can also ask, how long do we have to try and fix this problem? And the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has said we have less than 10 years, that by 2030, we need to cut our global emissions by 50% and be working towards net zero by 2050. And I think it helps to kind of bring it home to what does this mean for Minnesota? That among the lower 48 states, we have one of the greatest threats for drought. We're also warming, one of the fastest of the lower 48. We have more and more increasing dangerous heat days. Also an increase in mosquitoes, and you may have heard ticks too, for both things like Zika virus that never existed in Minnesota before. We're seeing spread here, and with ticks, and the rates of Lyme disease in Minnesota has become astronomical. And when I think of biking, you know, those extreme heat days take a big toll on us as bikers in the summer. And there are more days that it's not comfortable for biking, as well as the increased threats from storms. But also what I've noticed in the winter, we get a lot more freeze and thaw than we used to, which actually makes the roadways a lot tougher for biking in the winter than they used to be, for those that are commuters. But there's hope. There's lots of hope.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So with Cool Planet skiers, and there's the logo for Berkey Green, which was something that we mentioned to Ben Pop and Nancy, who was the PR person 3 years ago, and said, you know, this might be a clever term that you could use to talk about sustainability. And when you're running a big event, there's a big carbon footprint in running a ski race, with the production of snow, the moving of the snow, the placing of snow, all of the transportation. This year, Berkey Green is asking every skier to offset their carbon footprint by purchasing credits with an organization called Climeco. But they're doing much more than that. And they've actually laid down a commitment that they want to be carbon neutral by 2020. All of these big bike events, these ski events, these trail events, the ice climbing events, everything could be organized in a way that looks at things through the lens of action. So when we talk to people, and we'll be at the Berkey this year, we'll also be at the Lopet in 2 weekends. We give them a sheet saying simple ways to get started. So we go through the list with them, check off the things that you're already doing, and then find 1 or 2 things that you'd like to do. So now we're going to expand that a little bit.
Yeah. And I just put a link in the chat that you can actually get an electronic copy of this handout, because on the back side, it also has a whole lot of links to websites that will help you in taking a lot of these steps that we suggest.
Okay, so
I don't think we said who was going to cover which.
Yeah,
but-
I'll do this one. So we started with the simple ones. You know, and everyone knows reduce, reuse, recycle. We also want people to consider refusing and not buying things that can't be reused or recycled or composted.
And also, I don't need a bag. I brought my own.
Yeah, so don't leave the bag in the car. Take it in, shop with you. Changing to LEDs isn't just the good idea for the environment. It saves a ton of money. An LED is going to last you 25 years, and the light is wonderful. So we go to businesses like Best Buy, big businesses, and when they make a change like that, it's tens of thousands of dollars that they save, and tremendous amounts of energy. Turning off things when not in use. You know, we're used to having things on as we want. There are switches now that can be saver switches, where you shut off the switch and it turns off all of your electronics. A bigger one is to sign up for WindSource. You go to your Excel account and you choose 40%, 50%, 100%, and you pay a small fee every month to support Excel getting their energy from wind farms. And other programs, I don't know if most of you are on Excel, but I think most people in the Twin Cities are. They also have a program called Energy Connects, which is a combination of solar and wind. And then keeping the heat down. You know, I've got my hat on. What is it now? I turn the heat up. We usually live at 62. It gets a little cold on these days, but then, you know, when we have guests over, we turn it up to 65, but lots of sweaters and blankets will make a difference. Okay, Mindy, your turn. Next page.
And we've learned to keep our programmable thermostat at a lower temperature, so that on chilly days, it's easy to come down and put the heat up a little bit so we're more comfortable, but it's not up by habit. It takes us to actually think about it and turn it up a little bit. I think you also didn't mention community solar is another option that you can look into for purchasing solar energy without having to put solar panels on your own roof. So there are lots of options for being able to subscribe to renewable energy without having to put it up yourself. I heard somebody talk about it having a home energy audit or at least putting in a lot of insulation and making your home more energy efficient. So there are programs for energy audits. A lot of cities will give you a discount on them. So that's something to look into depending on what city you live in. But then things like using water more wisely. You can also look at if you're in a house with a yard, what you plant in the yard, reducing the amount of grass so that you don't have to mow as often, and creating things that are more water efficient and pollinator friendly. Eating local and eating lower on the food chain. For some people, going vegetarian and vegan is something they like to do. For others, that's a little extreme, but there are ways that we can all be more conscious in our food choices at different times and thinking about what the impact is of those.
And certainly encouraging your neighborhood and your cities to invest in a compost program with home collection. In Edina, we get compost collected every week now, even through the winter. Mindy and I take our kitchen waste and do our own composting in the backyard, which we mix with leaves and grass clippings. But for a lot of people, just putting it in the green compostable bag and getting the city to pick it up, it's a huge energy saver. And in the long run, it will also save money because it's less expensive than trash pickup.
You can look for more opportunities for active transportation. One of the things I love about riding my bike to places is that I'm not always good at getting exercise for exercise sake. But if I need to get to that meeting on my bike, I suddenly got my exercise in at the same time. But also walking and public transport are other ways that you have to get to the public transportation, which can often be by bicycle or by walking. And Green Miles is one great way for getting to your to events. You could also consider ride sharing when you're getting to those events if it's too far to bike to the ride.
And there used to be a program. What was it called?
Bike benefits.
Bike
I don't know if
benefits.
it's still. I don't know. I forgot to look to see if
Have
it's
any
still
of you
around.
seen bike benefits out in stores where if you ride your bike, I used to pick up my pizza from Hello Pizza and get 10% discount. And you get a little sticker that you put on your helmet. You come in and say, thanks for supporting biking. So we haven't seen it lately. So I'm wondering if that's been discontinued, but that would be an idea. That would also be an idea, say, I use Green Miles, put a sticker on your helmet so people would ask you, what is that, Green Miles?
Yeah. There's also opportunities to purchase carbon offsets if you do fly somewhere. I also know people that voluntarily add up their car miles for the year and do carbon offsets or intentionally make a donation. Some groups actually will pool their money together and make a donation to organizations that work on climate as a way of offsetting their carbon footprints. Paul mentioned this one before about just plain talking about climate. The more you talk with your friends and your family and your neighbors, it's making it more normal. We're hearing about climate change a lot more often in the media now than we used to, but still talking to people makes a big difference. Engaging in community actions, and everything begins locally. So working with your city government. I actually am a member of the Transportation Commission here in Edina, which is a volunteer position for citizens that you apply to. And that's another way that I'm advocating for more bike and pedestrian friendly solutions within the city of Edina. But you can look at joining bike task forces or talking to your city council and advocating individually at a local basis.
Edina just lowered their speed limit to 25 miles per hour. And we're doing a 9-year program called the Climate Action Plan to lower our emissions as a city and residents, the whole thing, 45% by 2030, which is in line with Hennepin County and with the Paris Agreement to reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius level that after which it's not good. So getting your city on board is really a wonderful step, and certainly voting, for people and asking questions about what is your plan, for taking action on climate for my grandchildren and kids, because if they don't talk about it, they've got plenty of other things to work on. We have to make it a real high priority that climate is being discussed.
Yeah, and as we're coming into election season, it's a perfect opportunity to just ask anyone running for office, what is your plan for addressing climate change?
Yeah, February 1st are the caucuses. So you can go to your caucus of choice and rally around people who say, let's include climate in the GOP and the DFL platforms. Thank you.
As Ed mentioned, I'm the regional coordinator for Citizens Climate Lobby, which works on national policy to address climate change. And I wanted to just hit briefly the main thing that we've been advocating for is a price on carbon, because it really is the most effective way that we can reduce our carbon pollution. There is a piece of legislation that is active. It's called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. And what it's that we've been advocating for, and in addition to putting a price on carbon that the fossil fuel companies pay, it takes the revenue that's raised for that and pays it back as a carbon cashback or a dividend to all households on a monthly basis. So when it's that model, it puts money in your pocket, in addition to the fact that it helps reduce our emissions to net zero by 2050. It helps us build affordable clean energy by helping us slowly reduce our fossil fuel use and encouraging cleaner sources of energy. And it saves lives because it actually reduces air pollution when we reduce our burning of fossil fuels.
Leading economists say, if you don't do this, you cannot reach the goals that are stated. So we've got to be able to have an economic solution that's good for people, the planet, and your pocketbook. This is it. You'll hear more about it, but very important that we get Republicans and Democrats to talk about this together. That's, of course, very difficult in these times of divisiveness, but we can't let that stop us. So reaching out to people on both sides of the political aisle it's crucial that we get people talking about solutions. This is a solution that can help everyone.
Mm-hmm. And if you'd like an action to take right away, we have a website where they have been talking about in the Build Back Better Act that they're currently looking to take it apart and do it in pieces. And climate change and a lot of the climate change actions is one of the things that there's a lot of agreement on. And so we are really working on a campaign to really keep it in front of President Biden and our senators that, yes, getting climate action in Build Back Better is the most important thing. And if that includes a price on carbon with a carbon cash back to households, that's the best way that we could do that. But any of the provisions that are already been talked about in the Build Back Better Act around climate will move us forward in great ways. So I've just put in the chat that link to this website if you'd like to send an email to the president and to your senators.
Tina and Amy, they're both very supportive, but what we've learned from our legislators is if it's not continually put in front of them, they will not act on it in a quicker fashion. So please follow that link, send your emails, and then if you want, you can make a call. We are now at almost 17,000 messages since January 1st. So you are not alone when you take this action.
We have just a few more suggestions and then we'll just open it up for more conversation. we were thinking about this of, everything we were talking about so far have been individual actions. And we were also thinking about what are things you might consider as a club as a whole. Green Miles being a great one to continue promoting, but also doing more to possibly promote bike commuting and using bike as a form of transport, not simply recreationally, which I'm sure some people think of and some people don't. Climate solution themed bike rides, our low carbon crossings is one example where we included presentations and conversations about climate change, but you could also do bike rides that maybe just do a tour of places where there are solar installations, or where there's a great pollinator garden, or where there's some good, water saving measures. There's lots of parks that have examples of these kinds of things. So you could do, a bike ride that just has a theme on some of the positive things that are happening, because a lot of what people need is hope that we really can make a difference. And there are tons of really good solutions that are already out there. There's also advocacy. And for one, the Bike Alliance of Minnesota does a lot on advocacy and education, but even locally in your own cities, for improved bike infrastructure, for bike lanes and bike paths, as well as bike policy that makes it safer for people to be biking. And there's also a bike industry declaration that there's only 2 so far in Minnesota, because we haven't been doing much work to ask to invite bike bike stores, bike businesses to sign on to it. If you look at this link for the declaration, it advocates for a price on carbon as a way to address climate change, but it includes a whole lot of clauses that talk about why climate change is impacting biking and why that's important. So you could ask your local bike shop if they would like to sign on, or something you could consider doing as a club.
And if you go to Eric's, tell them thank you, because they're the ones that signed on. And we're not sure who went there, but it really is one of you going to your shop and saying, this makes sense. I shop here because I'm, a biker that believes it's a solution. So please, all you have to do is follow that link. And then as you get someone to go to the website and say, we want to be on board with this, there are hundreds of bike shops, but there's only 2. There's one in St. Cloud, and then it's Eric's in the Twin Cities. So my friends would be very impressed if Minnesota started showing up there because of you. And there's other things the club can do too. The actions that you decide to take are the important ones. These are just our thinking, but I love the idea. We used to take bike rides out to the power plant out at, not Prairie Island.
We took a bike ride to Flint Hills.
To Flint Hills, where the Coke Center is. And we got a tour, and we actually learned a lot about what they're doing. They've been winning awards because they're not burning off methane, and they've gotten environmental policy awards. And there were a ton of bikes out in front of Flint Hills. So the villain is actually filled with people that care about climate. So it's like finding that common ground and building that connection, rather than building a wall and saying, you're the problem, we're the solution. We've got to open up the conversation to find some common ground. People like biking no matter who they vote for.
And one other fun thing that's going on right now, or is about to begin, the Great Northern Festival. Sometimes I think this is the best kept secret. They have a whole, this from their website shows one of their topics is around ideas in climate change. But it's a great event that includes both virtual events, in-person events, lots of outdoor events. It was started by, it's a huge coalition, but it includes the St. Paul Winter Carnival as part of it. There are great speakers coming and events, so I encourage you to check that one out too. It starts the 27th, which is in 2 days, goes through February 6th with there's a lot of art projects as part of it.
And
too.
Ed, one of the thing, Joe from the Berkey is going to be part of a panel discussion on barley and brewing and beer. So they're talking about many breweries are some of the most green businesses around because they know their product is being impacted. Beer, coffee, chocolate, wine, all these things are struggling now with a changing climate. And I can't imagine any adult that's not somewhat concerned about one of those four. So that, I think that's on the 29th. And then on the 31st, Catherine Hayhoe is speaking at the Westminster Forum. That'll be on the radio, online, and in person. But Catherine Hayhoe wrote a book called Saving Us. And it's really, don't think the planet's in trouble, it's humans. And we're not going to save the planet. We're just going to try to stay here. So it's really about building that human connection that can figure out how to deal with climate and bring climate back to a livable future. But highly recommend going to her website. I'll put her link in the chat. So much chatting.
And with that, we'll stop sharing our screen so we can see each other more easily again. Because we really just wanted to open this up then to a conversation of what questions do you have? What comments do you have? What ideas did this spark?
I wanted to make sure everybody saw the links. All those links are in the chat. So go ahead and you can hit those and save them too. So what types of things, you've mentioned things that we can do as a club, or does anybody else have other ideas? I was thinking with the Green Miles, if it does, I wasn't sure how popular it would be, and it has. There's people, already saying I'm in third place, second place. And the whole idea really was to look at how we can, at the end of the year, how much carbon have we offset? I mean, how much fuel have we saved by riding to rides? But I was thinking, even for ride leaders, of looking for places that are easier to get to by bike rather than just by driving, as start places too, as another thing we could do possibly.
The club itself, you guys could also endorse the bike declaration. You don't have to just go to a store. Individuals can do it, but getting a bike club, I mean, how many members do you have? 2,000 or more? So you bring that to your board, endorse that, then people are going to say, well, what is this? And then you get to educate them about, advocacy and bicycling can go hand in hand. So if you're interested in that, you have the link. So that's all you have to do.
Yeah, and that might be something to look at for the board.
What other thoughts, comments, questions do you have? You can just unmute yourself and go ahead.
A question I have to all the commuters, and Shelby, I didn't realize you were a commuter. That's good to know. I've so far kind of resisted that, and I've, my office was 4 or 5 miles and more, retired now, but I do work part-time at a bike shop. And so I'm trying to guilt myself into why I'm not commuting to that, which is probably the easiest thing to commute to. So how do people get started with that?
I was going to let any of you that are already commuters jump in if you want to. For one, that's a great question. And hosting an event where you invite some of the bike shops to come and give examples of what kind of bike bags and such that that are available, because there are so many varieties now. I know a lot of people don't have a rack on their bike. I can't imagine a bike without a rack. To me, that's the most essential thing that I have on each of my bikes, and I do have more than one. And so I can put all kinds of bags on there. There are baskets that are available. There are for commuting to work. The completely weatherproof panniers were the best thing I ever invested in, because I tried lots of things to make sure when it was raining that my clothes didn't get wet, and nothing worked until I got the real waterproof bags. But I've had them for so many years. I have the Ortlieb panniers that I have had for so many years. They were well worth the investment because they've lasted through multiple bike rides.
Now I have Mindy's old ones, and now they're mine. She got yellow, I have red, but they're wonderful. And I love going to the co-op and shopping. Even in the winter, I'll brave it sometimes, or borrow Mindy's fat tire bike and bike to the Lake Harriet when I walk on Saturday mornings. But it does take a push. And it's just a way of bringing biking into everyday life. Like during the summer, oftentimes our car will stay in the garage,
and we'll both be gone
3 or 4 days, and there's no reason, so let's let your car get to know the garage better. Leave it at home.
And I think it's also important to be patient with yourself, right? You can try it, and you don't have to start by saying, I'm going to commute every single day on bicycle, right? Try it once, try it twice, then set a goal to try it a few more times. And then, like I said, I'm a little wimpier than I used to be in the winter, mostly because I've fallen a couple of times, and now things break that didn't used to break. And I don't really like broken bones. So I'm not as brave. But I've learned to forgive myself of, okay, when the roads are clear, I don't mind it being a little cold. And I'll take my bike then. And when it doesn't feel safe, then I don't feel guilty that I choose to take the car on that day. And I think that's important, that we give ourselves and everyone else some kindness, that you can try a lot of things without having to be extreme on all of them. I also have a trailer for my kayak that I can pull with my bike. And I've been able to do more kayaking since I got that, because I have a sea kayak that's too heavy for me to put on top of the car by myself. But with the bike trailer, I have it on pulleys in the garage roof, so I can lower it down onto the trailer, connect it to my bike. I bike to the lake, paddle for a while, and the wheels will let me take it all the way down to the wheels, so I can wheel the kayak down right to the water. And it's kind of fun to be able to say, hey, here's yet another thing that I can do with a bike.
And who made the trailer?
Wike, W-I-K-E. They're out of Canada, and they make all kinds of trailers for all different uses, and for many multi-uses for bikes.
Edward, I thought that was a great question, because that's where I'm at. And since I retired, that was my goal. Like, it's ridiculous. Target is 1 mile away. I try, the grocery store is less than, it's like 0.2 away. And I do walk most of the time to the grocery store. But I'm not at that point where I've got it all figured out, because I'm like, well, I need all this stuff today at Target, so I have to drive, or it's freezing out. And by the time I find the bike, get the stuff, it's just, I think I need to have a bike committed for that purpose. The bike I have for that is a piece of junk, but it works good enough. And I think that's what I need to have it ready, because if I have to go find my bike in my spare bedroom and get all the stuff and find the baskets, I'm like, oh, this Target trip will take me 5 minutes, I'll be done. And so now that I'm retired and have the time, I can take all day to figure that out. And then hopefully it will become more of a, it'll be a little easier, because I'm the same way. I think it all through. What am I going to buy? Is it worth it? Do I have the time? And it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Well, and do the planning now, and plan to start doing this in April during 30 days of biking. That's a wonderful event that the Bike Coalition does, where they encourage people to just get on your bike every day in April, even if you're just riding it around the block. and get started, but it's kind of like a resolution for the year. I'm
Be
gonna,
like Johnny.
yeah, be like Johnny. Yeah, that's actually a great one. You've got your built-in, icon right there. Good
When you
question.
do bike to the stores and places like that, do you ever have concerns about how you secure your bike when you go inside the store to shop? I know I went to Sam's Club one time and I didn't even see any place I could lock the bike up, so I just brought it in with me.
Yeah.
And I have Ortlieb carriers as well, and so I just put my stuff inside the bags, and then I checked out. But
Yeah, I always take the bags inside when I'm shopping. But you're right. Sometimes there are places that are challenging. And you may find that the bike rack is by the dumpster around the back of the store.
yeah,
And those are times, that's where advocacy comes in, right? You may not find that it's a convenient place for you to bike. And that's when it's good to tell the store, it doesn't feel, sometimes where the bike rack is, if it doesn't feel safe to me, if it's in the alley, by the dumpster, I don't feel safe locking my bike there. But that's something I will tell the store owners, that I like to bike to shop. And if you don't have a bike rack in a safe space for me to bike there, I may choose to shop somewhere else that does cater to that. There's also, those street signs are also an easy place to lock a bike if the bike rack is not in a place that feels safe. But I do think that sometimes can be a real concern.
And that's another issue too, to bring to the city. When I go up to the liquor store on Excelsior Boulevard on Miracle Mile, I bring my bike in. They're used to it. They've never said anything. And I said, you ever think about, they have a bike rack, but it's one of those really old bike racks that's almost impossible to lock up to. So people need to just get hoops, just put those simple hoops out, and it's a sign that this business cares. I don't know if Hoygaard's has done that, but Hoygaard's is right down on the same stretch.
And this is another place that advocacy at the city level can come in. I know that the city of Edina offers a program that they will help subsidize bike racks if a business wants to put it in. So they split the cost with the business so that they can put in bike racks. And there's more and more types of bike racks available. There are ones that can just be added on, like to a street sign that's already out there. But you need to make sure that it's allowed by ordinances in your city that allows businesses to just, maybe put a little add-on that adds the loop to the sides of the street sign. And then suddenly you might have a bike rack that's easier than them having to secure a new bike rack to the cement, which can be more costly.
Has anyone else ever, I advocated for probably over 20 years at my job to get a shower. That's all I kept saying. I'll bike to work if you just put in a shower. I can't come here, and then try to work with kids 8 hours and then go home. But I needed a shower and I never got it. But I'm wondering if, looks like almost everybody here, maybe Bob and Shelby, are not retired. But, that sounds like a silly thing, but to me, that was a big deal. Like, I did not feel like I could bike as far as I needed to get to work in White Bear and then not be able to take a shower. So has anyone else heard of that or as being a roadblock?
It's definitely something I've heard of other people seeing that as a roadblock and as a barrier. And there are more businesses that are willing to do it. Another option in that case, all of our buses in the Twin Cities have bike racks on the front of them. So one option, and it depends on where work is, whether getting there by bus is practical. But if it is, one option is to take the bus someplace and put your bike on the front and you only bike home. And there are, as we increase our bus rapid transit, that will make some of our buses even more useful to be able to use, like one way and then biking another way, or take a bus part of the way and ride part of the way as another way to shorten a bike commute if it's too long to get there.
Good comments and questions.
Mhm.
Keep them coming. We got plenty of time.
Okay, in your experience, how would you say that Minnesota stacks up compared to other states, infrastructure wise, policy wise, whatever?
Well, when was the year that Minneapolis beat out Portland, Oregon for the most bikeable city? So I don't know what the current statistics are. I do think that Minneapolis of our cities has been the best. St. Paul has started to improve a lot. At first, what St. Paul had was a lot of disconnected bike lanes, and they seem to be doing a better job of connecting things now.
They're
You-
taking the Greenway across the Mississippi, aren't they?
Are they finally going to do it?
No, not yet. Okay. I
It's
thought
been in
I-
the plan for a
not
long
for sure.
time.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
another question I had is, I know that that Summit Avenue is really being looked at right now as trying to, there's a transit way. I don't know the legislation on it at all, but they're really looking at Summit Avenue, and it's going to be a big issue because they're talking about one option of putting the bike path right down the middle of the green space. And I don't think that's the answer personally, but wanted your thoughts on what you think of. They're trying to get it because they made a commitment to make a longer area, because right now, even if you bike on the grass, which is allowed, then you get stuck every less than half a mile. You get stuck having to cross a really busy intersection. So they're looking at
Right.
trying to figure that out. But my personal answer was you need to pave Summit Avenue, repave it so that it's bikeable, and go from there. But Doug is like, yes.
Yeah,
And
and
they
there's a
keep-
lot of those, a lot of those things of, just putting a line of paint down and calling it a bike lane doesn't necessarily increase bike ridership. For one, if the pavement's not in good shape.
Right.
And for two, when we were doing our new bike and pedestrian plan in Edina, one of the things that we learned in that process of the consultant was looking at studies with us was it's a fairly small percentage. It's like 10% of those who might potentially bike are willing to do that if it's next to traffic. And you can increase that percentage of how many people are willing to bike if you can create more and more of a protection between the traffic and the bikers. So protected bike lanes, either like the ballards that they've started putting up on a lot of Minneapolis streets to give some protection, or even better, when there's a strip of grass between the bike lane and the car lanes, it makes a big difference of how safe people feel. And when it takes someone who's a lot more bold to be willing to ride right next to traffic, it's not a surprise to me that the bikers that are out there are more likely to be the ones to go through a red light or not obey the traffic lanes, because they already have to be a certain level of risk averse or not risk averse to be willing to be out there with traffic. And so sometimes that then upsets drivers that bikers don't obey the rules, but yet it's only certain bikers that are there. Because we don't have the infrastructure that makes more bikers feel safe.
Right.
And makes people feel safe letting their kids bike. I wouldn't want my kids on the road that there's just a little line between where they're biking and where there's traffic. So having better routes for kids to get to school is something we've been trying to set up in Edina as well. So, and really important, and you brought up a great point, right? There's conversations about what to do about Summit Avenue. And so including more people in those conversations, really having the city go through the public input process and getting people to speak on both sides of those who, and that's where you come up with better ideas. The more public input, the more likely someone will have that new creative idea that creates a safer space for the bikes without cutting down the trees on that lovely boulevard that's down the middle of Summit Avenue.
Right.
There must be something we haven't thought of yet.
Well, and what they've done so far is make an extra small lane that is a barrier. It's two stripes that are the traffic, and then there's this nothing lane, and then there's the bike lane. So I think that's a start. And if they would pave it so that you didn't have to go around all the potholes, and, I mean, that's where I think it's at right now. But
Yeah,
you know,
I noticed in Copenhagen, I noticed bike lanes that were elevated. You
So
know,
like a slight curb
Yeah.
before the bike lane.
like 6 inches higher. So they actually were biking, and they had stoplights that said bikes go now, cars go later, things like that. But it points to the fact that if the cities and the governmental structures aren't holding this as an agenda item, so being really, proactive on saying we really want to have a bike coalition, in our city government. And the best way, thinking of the work that we've done with CCL, start writing letters to the editor, or write an op-ed piece and link it with something that's current right now. We're talking about safety and pedestrians, and then make the point that biking is a wonderful solution, but it's got to be in front of people. And then if you do get published, you make sure that you send that to your representatives and to your senators and to your state
Local
rep.
elected officials.
I think
yeah.
local, yeah, get it to your city council and get it to your park board. We've got people representing us everywhere, and we don't use them because we don't have a relationship. So getting to know the people that you voted for, or even if you didn't vote for them, they need to hear from us. It takes time, but what better group than a group of retired active, cyclists? I mean, it's something that you can really make a difference with, and you'll surprise yourself, when you really reach out. I had no idea that I could influence, a member of Congress, and now I know them all, just because we've gone to DC twice a year for 10 years. And Eric Paulson, I see Eric Paulson now, he got beat by Dean Phillips, but now we're buddies because we ski the Berkey. I saw him yesterday, what wave you in, Eric? We're first wave. Good work. It's good getting out of DC, isn't it? So they're just people and overwhelmed like everybody else. But if you speak up and say, oh, did you see my article in the paper? You get published and say, oh, did you see Ann's letter? It was really well written, Ann. You should write more.
I see Bob just put a link in the chat too of a video as to why Finns bike in the winter and Canadians don't. So I look forward to actually watching that one.
So I've got my essay written.
I had to make sure I paused it so it
Yeah.
wouldn't talk while we're talking.
What else? This is good. What did you get from the presentation that you're going to do that's different from what you were before?
And you're welcome to put things in the chat if you don't want to say them out loud. But you're encouraged to say them out loud.
I mean, the low-hanging fruit is sign up for WindSource. How many are doing WindSource? There you go. Just go to your Excel account. You go to my account and sign up for WindSource. It costs us about $2 a month, $2 to $3. Anyone thinking about an electric car? Yeah, we're getting Excel. We're waiting for Excel to hook up our garage so that we can charge our Tesla in the garage.
Other than on the extension cord from the house at 110.
Which takes
is what we've been doing since
48
June.
hours to charge our car if it's empty. And today we actually we get messages all the time from our car now and saying your car is fully charged.
But that's an example of, by choosing to only have one car, we could buy an electric car instead of having two cars and 2-car insurance and 2-car payments. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I have to share with Mindy. Sometimes I'm bikeless or carless and I don't want to ride my bike, but then I stay home. But that's easy. The other one that's bigger is community solar. There's a group called Cooperative Energy Futures. It's on the little slip that we have, and Ed can send that out too with a follow-up. And what they will do is ask you if it's okay to contact Excel Xcel will give Cooperative Energy Futures 2 years of your electrical use so that they'll know how much energy you use on a regular basis. And then you can subscribe to 50%, 40%, up to 125% of the energy of your average usage. And then you can offset that by purchasing credits from a solar garden that in our case is on top of Public Works. In other places, it's out in the country. But they set up the solar array. You buy the energy from them. Xcel pays you every month for the energy that you're creating, that unless you are using so much that your bill will be lower, that we get money back every month. And then we pay the developer a fee. And it's pretty much a wash. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We hardly pay anything for electricity now because the developer is a really conscious group, but it's called Cooperative Energy Futures. And you just give them permission to go ahead. And then you say, we'll take 100% of our energy. We have to redo it now because of the Tesla, because we're going to be using a lot more electricity, but we want our electricity, to come from renewable energy. And there are 66 families that fully subscribe to this unit. And they're building new ones all the time. So they have room for new subscribers. But that seems to be kind of the biggest ask for most people who want to do something right now is offset your electricity and do all the other right things.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, tell your neighbors how great it is, because that's how things get spread.
Paul, is there like condo associations that join that? I mean, I'm in a loft association, and so I don't pay individually for things. It's through the co-op. Is there ways to do it that way too?
You don't have a separate electric meter for your unit.
Yeah, I guess I do for electric. I was thinking heat and air. Yeah.
So the community solar works if you have your own electric meter. And the nice thing about it is so you don't have to be in a house, you can be in a condo or an apartment as long as you pay your own electric. And if you move, you can take it with you because it's not physically on the building, right? So if you move to a different location, you can just transfer it with your electricity bill to your new location. And they also have options that if you go to a place where you won't have your own electric, that you can sell it back to them.
I see you put the link into. So
yeah, what I really love about Cooperative Energy Futures, for one, they are a co-op. And they also have a commitment to creating jobs for people who have traditionally been underemployed. So there's a lot of things about them that I really like in terms of their values as a business. Started by a McAllister graduate not long after he graduated from college. So.
The other group that I've gotten involved with, because part of my work as an elementary teacher and now as a senior citizen is finding intergenerational ways to connect with kids, with mentors. And I find that the mentorship goes both ways, that the adults and the kids both learn from each other. There's a group called Elders Climate Action. And it's a national organization, but the Twin Cities organization is like really hot right now. And it's mostly grandmas and now some grandpas. There's people as young as 50, but most of us are 65 and over, and they've got time, they've got resources, and I'd say they're angry sometimes, but they're also wanting to sit and have a glass of wine and talk about stuff. So it's a really, really cool group. We meet every second Wednesday. I'm in charge of the legislative division, and they have room and need for people to really get involved. And it would be great, to get some bikers out there and say, hey, let's go for a bike ride and go visit some of these places. But some of them are coming to the Lopet to help us talk about these issues at the Twin Cities Lopet next weekend, 2 weekends from now. And we're getting our high school kids to come with them. So building that bridge, because kids are pretty anxious about their future, as you can imagine. And we find that when the kids have a project and they're working, we're doing a youth climate summit, April 16th at Edina High School. And we encourage people to come, to meet other people who are doing this work, because the movement is growing quickly and it's getting warmer. So we get one shot at this, and the next decade is the shot, because after that, we will have made significant progress or not. So get that bike lane in Summit.
Yeah, right.
Take a project and move it.
For the bike club, I hope we're going to try to spread the idea, especially what you mentioned about climate solution themed group bike rides, because that's something I definitely think we could do. We've got a lot of leaders with good ideas who know their areas and could put something together like that. We've had food rides. We've had John Benda. What's the summer ride that you've been involved with?
The Black History Tour.
Yeah. Mhm.
Johnny. Yep, Johnny helped
Yeah.
you.
It's the same kind of idea. We just need leaders to plan it, and we could easily publicize it and spread the word.
Yep.
So how do we join? How do we join the group? I want to ride more,
All right.
Once I get through the Berkey, I got to start riding regularly. So you got any rides can I get green miles around here, Ed?
Absolutely. Just go to the Twin Cities Bicycle Club, easy to join, and we'd be happy to have you guys as members.
Yeah, but I want to ride with you. I don't know the other ones.
Yeah.
Now you got a whole bunch of people.
That's right.
Yeah. There's a
You
lot.
gotta meet Johnny. Johnny, I'm very competitive. I've done 40 Berkeys. I'm going to catch you on the green miles. I'll just
If you're willing to ride with Edward, you should definitely join TCBC, because the rest of us are even better and nicer. So
yeah.
if you're willing to ride with Edward.
Edward leads me in that I'm a 12 to 14 mile an hour biker. How's that?
That's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
We've got all levels, right, Edward?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. The tortoise always gets to the finish line. It just takes a while.
No, there's all kinds of groups from if you look at our website, there's you can hook up with different groups and go at different paces. So, and a lot of good routes too. So
it won't look so great right now because it's the dead of winter. We don't all have studs on our tires and fat bikes, but
we should get all of you calling into Kathy Werzer at NPR and give her some updates. She's got this too. She got
pedaling pastor. Is that his name?
The pedaling pastor. Yeah.
Who gives her the bike commute update.
Now we can have the south, north, east, and west reports from TCBC.
Yeah, I think it just started. Didn't it just start like in January, like the beginning of the year? I've only started hearing it recently.
Yeah.
That she started doing this, and usually she's one who does not like winter. When you hear her give the weather report, whenever there's something about snow, you'll hear her complain about it. So she doesn't really like winter. So this is quite novel that she's got this bike commuter that she's promoting.
Johnny, I think you'd be a regular on that. You should call in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want her number? I got it. Where's her? Where's her? Six 651-227-6000. Oh no, Kathy, where's it? 251-290-1080. That's
651?
651-290-1080. That would be fun. Mention your name and your club.
Oh yeah.
You'll get PR for the club.
Ed, your cat is really determined to get attention there. It looks like he's pulling things out
there's
of
a
the wall.
rabbit out. There's a rabbit out there, and
that's just the
he
shade.
runs around, and he just can't. Has to be back here.
So we got 2 new members tonight, Edward. So kudos to you to setting this up. Look at that. Now we've got 1,002.
Ooh, fantastic.
Excellent. Well, Mindy and Paul, it's certainly been great having you on, and I love the discussion. Always enjoy talking to you too. And I had the pleasure of sitting on one of the panels that you put together up at in Hayward a few years ago now. But thanks for bringing some ideas to us for the bike club. And as I said, we'll get this recording and put it up so others in the club can hear it too. And I'll try to get all these different links that you put to in some type of note so everybody can get to those too.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting us. This was a lot of fun.
Oh,
It
thank
really
you.
is fun. Mindy gets all stressed out about putting together, the thing. And when we get out here, I watch her and she gets to talk about what she loves to do. And it's always in the sharing when the magic comes out, because, what you do with this information is why we're here. And if you don't do anything, it's okay, but it would be much cooler, to see everybody going out and getting Ortley bags and shopping. But that's up to you. And thank Ed for the opportunity. Looking forward to, spreading the word, and we'll be happy to do this with, church groups, school groups, whatever. Oh, the other thing we didn't mention is the greenhouse game. If you go to greenhousegame.com, do you want to get one? They're in the bag.
First, I was gonna find the link.
It's a game. The woman that helped me do my program last year when I was skiing my 40th Berkey, she's created a game called the Greenhouse Game. And it's a card and token game where you actually can solve climate change or you can lose. And you have events, and then you have actions, and then you have momentum that allows you to support each other in working with momentum on other people's actions. And it's a cool, I just need one. This is what the game looks like. And inside are the cards and the tokens. And one of the options, because people get the game, you have to play it. You have to learn how to play it. But we would come, to a home, you get 2 or 3 couples together, you play the game, you talk about things. But this is real stuff. It's real solutions, and it gets people to think about, oh, I didn't know concrete was one of the biggest, CO2 emitters. You think about the number of building. On Thursday night, we're actually meeting a group called Climate Restoration that is taking excess carbon and embedding it into concrete. So removing legacy carbon, the carbon that our parents put in the atmosphere, and putting it back down into building materials that will be locked away for 100 years. So I'm just learning about that because I've been digging around to try to look for solutions. But this is a really fun way to make climate action real. We'll be selling these at the Lopit. There's always something to talk about unless we say goodbye.
That's why we're here, to learn
Yeah.
more.
Well, thank you. I hope,
Yeah, thanks.
was it good
Oh,
for
yeah.
you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, every little bit helps. So.
Yeah. Stirring the pot. Yeah. We'll see you on the ride. I'll see you, Ed, very soon.
Yes, thank you all. And Mindy and Paul, if you could just stay on, and I thank everybody else. I'm going to stop the recording now. Take care.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, everybody.